I'm Mike.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Stuff and Waffle. Two friends talking about stuff, and often as not, waffling with frequent reference to Bond cars.
We pick up from where we left off last week with part 2 from Chris's superb car history.
Now, we're about to go right up someone's pipe here, aren't we?
Oh, yeah.
Go on then.
A 2007 Jaguar S-Type TDV6.
Now, may I ask a question?
Yes.
I didn't think the S-Type ever came with the 3-litre diesel.
No, I think actually it was a 2.7.
Yes, I was going to say the S-Type, I think, only ever had the 2.7. The 3-litre was a V6 petrol.
Yeah, I think that's why I missed out the 3-litre when I read the description. I realised it was an error on my part.
Okay, that's cool.
The next one was in fact a 3-litre. I think I might have copied and pasted engine types.
Okay, I was going to say, I don't think that's right.
Oh dear. I think you'll find. Fucking hell.
If there's one thing I know about, is the options that were available on the S-Type.
So, it was a great car. I bought it because my job had changed and I was suddenly required to do a lot more driving around the country than I ever had done in previous roles. And I needed something that was not an A3 for doing that with. So the A3 was fine when I first got the role, but very quickly you realise that a lack of cruise control and all that sort of stuff, it becomes wearing. And you've got enough on your plate without adding an unnecessary evil to it. So I absolutely love a manual car for fun. But when it comes to traveling large distances, I will take an auto any day of the week.
Absolutely.
Yeah, fine.
Yeah,
absolutely fine.
So yeah, it was the 2.7. Thank you, Mike. V6 diesel. It's like 200 and something horsepower, 6-speed auto. This is the first car that had a better ride quality than the Citroen BX.
Fucking hell.
That took a while. You heard it here first.
I think it's also the car on this list with the second best ride quality overall.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah. So, what a thing. It wafted superbly. You could just waft through the countryside with it. However, as much as I like the idea and I like the look of an S-Type in particular, I think it's an absolute styling gem. And I think that your desire to get an S-Type R is absolutely, well-founded. Phenomenal.
Thank you.
However, when a car has a tendency to randomly go into limp mode on the M4, and then you have to somehow make it across 3 lanes of motorway onto the hard shoulder, and you turn the car off and back on again, and it's miraculously fine, and it's logged no faults or errors.
Yes.
That tends to undermine confidence. And when it does it a second time and then a third time, you think to yourself, perhaps JLR's build quality isn't maybe what it should be.
I had the exact same issue with my X-Type estate, which is the same era as that. So, yes.
Yeah, it's a lovely, lovely car. And if it was reliable, I would have kept it for far longer than the 6 months that I had it for. But being like you guys, I'm a car guy, and if I know why something is broken, I can fix it. If you can't determine why it's done something, where do you even start?
If you're just chasing a gremlin, it's like, oh, fuck that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it had to go, and I replaced it with a a 2014 A5 Quattro 3-litre TDV6. So that is a genuine 3-litre.
I don't know so much about Audis. You're all right.
I mean,
that would have been spot on.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't. I mean, I want to know what you think, but in my head, that would have been faultless.
It was excellent. It was a really, really good car. It suffered from a couple of weird things, really, which is it's a surprisingly big car with surprisingly difficult blind spots. So I'm not saying that it was difficult to park, because I never really had an actual problem parking it.
Yeah.
It would take up a lot of a parking space.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it was invisible as well. I got cut up in that car more than any other vehicle I've ever owned.
Weird, isn't it?
It is weird because, obviously, Audi has the whole, daytime running lights thing. So the lights were always on.
Yeah.
The car, it's not like it's invisible, just it appeared to be.
Yeah. It's weird that some cars do that.
I bet that never happened to you in the Jag.
You're right. People would normally kind of like doff their caps and wave Union flags.
Exactly. Yeah, that sort of thing.
Yeah, all the time. No, the Audi A5. So this was the Sportback as well that I got. So it was the 4-door. I think in terms of Audi's styling at that time period, if you ignore the R8, it's probably one of the nicest cars they ever made over the last 10 years before they got too fussy with it. So
yeah.
And then they've slowly made the A5 and the A4 worse over the last 10 years by just making them fussier and fussier.
Just stop fiddling with it.
Yes. But that's not even taking into account the S or the RS models. The standard A models are just too much.
So fussy. Yeah.
Exactly. And this one wasn't that. And it was just it was a lovely thing to own. I did 60,000 miles on that car in 3 years.
Wow.
No messing.
Yeah, absolutely faultless. It did everything it was supposed to do and did it well. It was as fast as you'd ever need it to be, for driving up and down, the motorway and around the roads. Sat nav was good, in-car entertainment was good. The interior quality was, as you've already said, perfect. Just such a nice place to be. Really, really like that car. And that, along with the A3, kind of very much got me to the, I quite like Audis. Not that I've had that many of them, but it was. So for me, what a car that was. Its only
good choice
complaint is that it's a little bit understeery.
Okay.
Yeah, the way that the engine is kind of is a little bit too far over the front wheel.
It's really far forward.
It's
that's an Audi thing, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, I mean, there's an awful lot of car there. It's like, just put it further back, dickheads.
Just move back a little bit.
Yeah.
But, it was a great car.
Yeah. That's solid.
But, it was a vehicle for a job, right? So it was.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
solid choice, though.
I liked it very much. So I replaced it with another Audi, and I replaced it with and you're gonna love this, Brando, because I know how much you love SUVs.
I can see the picture. I'm already fucking livid.
He's all over this one.
With a 2017 Audi SQ5 Plus.
Dear.
It's the most ridiculous vehicle that I've ever owned, in the respect that it went in a way that nothing that looked like that should go.
That'll be the S bit, I suppose. Yeah.
It was 340 brake horsepower, which isn't phenomenal. But then when you look at the fact it was a diesel, it was like 700 million pound-feet of torque.
Yeah.
And it was an 8-speed auto. It was absolutely flawless in terms of driving it. it actually drove like a car rather than like an SUV. The normal Q5 is a terrible thing. The SQ5 is a lot better. And I hear that the Can actually is better again in terms of quite a dynamic thing to drive. But easier to park than the A5 was because it was shorter with less overhangs. You could fit more people in it more comfortably. You could get 5 adults in the thing. The fact that it was slightly higher off the ground in terms of getting in and out meant that the taking elderly parents around was a lot easier. I know that you don't like to hear it, but there's a reason that SUVs are really popular, and it's because they're so easy to live with. And if you get a fast one, they're actually quite fun.
All right.
He's not going to go for it. He's not going to go for it.
Oh, no, I'm not.
I really wish that I'd be more in contact with you when I had this car, because I genuinely think that you would.
You think I changed my tune?
Much like your Model Y performance review,
I thought super fair. I'd say that was.
Yeah, you were super fair, but you were super fair despite yourself, and I feel that this car would fall into that category.
Yeah, I tell you what, if circumstances change, and I don't know if your car or someone else's car presents itself, I would drive it and judge it fairly. Unlike, I mean, like I had that car from work the other day. I judged that fairly. It was fucking awful.
It was. Yeah, that's fair.
The Model Y was not fucking awful.
No, it's not. But that's for later.
That's further down the list.
We'll come on to that. I'm not going to give you crap about owning a Tesla, so we're all right on that front.
But we actually outnumber him.
That's a very good point. We do. That's true. Tesla owners unite here. Yes.
I got a mute button. Don't worry about it. It's not a bother.
It's fine. I can just point out that I could lose a motor and still have more horsepower than his Honda, and it'll be fine.
It's so childish, isn't it? It's just so silly. So silly.
In the words of Rob, dangerously slow.
I did the word
dangerously slow.
Bastards. A bunch of shitheads.
Sorry.
Wonderful.
It's all right.
Shall we move on from the SQ5? Because I love that car, but it's not interesting per se, but it was just fantastic.
There's more interesting things ahead. Let's be honest.
The next one, I know you had this car, and I know you've briefly sort of spoken about it, and I've seen the odd picture, but I don't know enough about it.
Okay, so COVID. I have a depreciating asset sat on my driveway.
Yeah, we all did.
Exactly. So I made a change for something that had already depreciated like a stone instead, and I changed it for a 640i Grand Coupe BMW. The same year, but substantially more devalued at that point. Because they were very much like a status car, and it's not necessarily a fair comparison, but if you look at Bentleys depreciate ridiculously because people only want them when they're new.
Yeah.
And the flagship BMWs always suffer from that 8 Series that is now the flagship car. They do the same thing. The 6 Series did the same thing. The previous generation 6 Series did the same thing. So you can get an absolute bargain, and I did get an absolute bargain with that car. So I bought it a few months into COVID. It got delivered to my house by a guy in a mask who did all the stuff.
Yeah, waved from the end of the driveway, all of that.
Yes.
And I had it for 2 years, and I got rid of it basically for what I paid for it, because I managed to somehow time it. I bought low, the COVID spike happened, I sold it at the top of the COVID spike. But that is the best riding car of the list.
Interesting.
It's essentially a 5 Series in a dress, in a pretty dress.
So, hang on, because this...
It's an F06, so it's the generation before the recent 5 Series G, the 5 Series G level that was purchased by your friend.
Yeah, so that means it's
Yes.
also different engines. So his is the B58 with the single turbo.
Yeah.
So
this is the N55 single turbo. So it's the precursor to the B58.
Yeah. Okay.
Great engine, hugely tunable. I did a couple of minor things to it, but I got to the point with it where I was going to ruin it for the thing that I bought it for, and what I bought it for was for doing my job.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was, I was at the point where I was going to have to do things like replace injectors and downpipes and various other bits if I wanted to chase numbers with the car.
Yeah.
And then I would probably change suspension because I can't leave well alone. It's not who I am. So I was like, that I will end up ruining that car. But it all gets a little bit blurry at this point because I had that car for work and I liked it. COVID happened and I was, quite into car DIY stuff as I had been for years, and I hadn't been modifying cars. You can probably tell by the last few cars they were kind of vehicles that I had for work predominantly.
Yeah.
And I decided that what I wanted was a project car, so I scoured the internet and I bought the cheapest, fun rear-wheel drive thing that I could get into. And I say that quite clearly because as I'm 6'2", and I'm not exactly slim either. I'm a fairly well padded adult male at this point. I can see you biting your tongue, Adam. I'm impressed.
Oh yeah.
I've called you horrible things before, but
yeah.
He's covered that very nicely. Yeah.
I've been called Hodor before, if that gives any of the listeners an idea as to what we're dealing with. So I ended up buying a BMW Z4, not because I decided to take up hairdressing or anything like those other things, but because it actually fitted the bill, which is that at that time you could pick one up for a couple of grand. It was the one I picked up was a 2.5 litre straight six. It was tired, it was tatty, it needed love. It was perfect for a project. And did loads of stuff on that car. Fixed the roof that wasn't working. Managed to get a set of wheels for like 75 quid off some random chap that were perfect condition. And were correct for the vehicle, and they weren't just ruined. And lots of various small mechanical things as well. Fixed the rocker cover gasket because it's an old BMW. Just basically gave it some TLC. And that car was fantastic. The problem was that car made me realise that I kept on trying to turn other things into being as fun as that car. So I had it at the same time as the 640, and if I had a choice when I was driving somewhere, the car that I chose to drive was the Z4. If I was even making a relatively long journey, so if I was driving to North Devon from Somerset, a good hour or so each direction, I wasn't taking the 6 Series. I was taking the Z.
Right.
It had half the power.
Yeah.
None of the refinement, but it had all the fun and feel to it. So I realised that was an important thing for me, which is that you can't necessarily have your cake and eat it. There's a point where you can have cars that are kind of fun and kind of enjoyable, but if you want a car that's genuinely fun, there has to be an element of you don't care what happens to it. In the nicest
it's a
way.
valid point. You
can't have a garage queen, right? My motorbike does maybe 1,000 miles a year. It's a garage queen. Whereas I get out every opportunity that I can in my toy cars, and it's really kind of a key distinction now that if you drive for work, that having something that is a completely different driving experience means you can still enjoy driving, because they've got to that point where it's like, I'm not driving for fun anymore because I just don't want to be behind the wheel of a car.
Yeah.
So, I realised that I bought the wrong one.
Okay.
Because what I actually wanted was the 3 litre rather than the 2.5, because I was planning on modifying it. So I restored this one, and I was going to keep it standard. And I thought, I'm not going to modify that one. I will get another car and modify that, but I want the platform to modify it from. So I bought a 3 litre Z4. Which has got the 6-speed manual rather than the 5-speed. It's got 230 horsepower rather than 190 horsepower. Just an all, the gearbox is much better. It's just a better platform, because ultimately that car's going to be supercharged. And if you supercharge the 2.5 litre, you never get that 40 horsepower back.
Right. Yeah.
So the Americans say there's no replacement for displacement. So that was how I ended up with that. The restored Z sadly met its end when a driver drove into the back of it as it was going to be turning into a driveway, and rear-ended it at 40 miles an hour. Definitely not on her phone.
No. I mean, what a wild accusation to make.
Yeah, I'm not accusing at all. I mean, she said she wasn't, so I'm sure she wasn't. But yeah, that was that. It was the fact that it was a long straight piece of road with clear sight lines,
clear visibility. It's a big bit of road. I know the bit you're referring to.
Yeah. So unfortunately, the first Z4, the restored one, is no longer with us, but it's still with me. It's now a parts car because it happens to also be black, and it has a lot of crossover bits that will work on the car that I've effectively still got, which was the 3 litre Z4. That 3 litre Z4, wheels aside, is an ongoing project. So somebody on this podcast, despite the fact that the wheels are clearly visible, that you can see the definition of them, somehow has a problem with black wheels.
Absolutely, and you cannot see the definition of those wheels. Such a waste.
I think they're fine.
Yeah, I think they're fine. Yeah.
I think they're fine. I've got no problem with black wheels.
Glowing review. Fine.
I've got no problem with black wheels. Well, they are quite muddy in that picture, to be fair. But
yeah, I think that the whole car is very muddy in that picture.
Yes.
It's again because it's being driven.
Quite.
That's the key thing. What I would say though is that I had a very revealing conversation with your co-host Mike when we were on a road trip a few months ago. I thought that he had been complaining at length about the colour of the wheels and complaining at length about the fact that it was a convertible and it's a hairdresser's car and various other things in the way that
I don't know. No, I don't know if I've complained about that aspect of it.
I think you did. I think you did. I mean, there were complaints. And I asked him the question, okay, so if I gave you this car and you had to drive it, would you? And he was like, oh, absolutely.
Well, having driven it, even with shit tyres on it, glorious.
Yeah, it's a fantastic bit of kit and much maligned for the fact that it's convertible. I think that you did your 2 podcasts ago, I think it was. You did might be 1 podcast ago. The choice of cars. No, it was 2 podcasts ago, definitely. About the car list, the classic. What's going to be a future classic. And for me, the not mentioning the E86. So mine's an E85, which is the convertible.
Yeah.
So the E86 coupe. Will be a classic because there are 2 things that affect classic car values. One, which is were they widely loved and are they scarce? And were they originally scarce? It's about rarity.
And they were the coupe was fucking scarce.
Yeah. I think the convertibles, there were tens of thousands of them in the UK and even more in the US. In the UK, I think the SI coupe. So I'm not even talking about the M coupe.
No.
I think it's a few thousand, a couple of thousand at most, of which some of them already aren't with us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good shout.
They will be an amazing bit of investment. Mine won't be, because I'm going to be changing all the bits on it, so that it's no longer a set by the end of it.
And let's face it, the bits you've changed so far, superb. That exhaust is.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've got to give a shout out to Titan Exhausts in Taunton. They put an entire custom system on there. So rather than it being a single pipe that runs down the length of the car and then splits out, it's independent pipes from each side of the engine that run back to give it a proper true dual exhaust system. And the reason for that is the planned supercharger in the future. So what you really want is you want as much flowing as possible.
Oh yeah.
But it involved doing things like getting a custom boot floor made, because the battery had to be relocated. It was a genuine labour of love, but the work that he did was fantastic, and the exhaust sounds phenomenal. It's not too loud until you need it to be.
It is wonderful. I've driven it, I've been in it, and it's like, oh yes, just more of that.
Yeah. And
I can't fault that. I think
trouble is, it runs into numbers that will get you banned quite quickly. It's not super fast, but it's fast enough.
I mean, by the top of second gear, you're approaching, or if not at 60, then you haven't really got an awful lot to play with, really. But it's a lovely, fun thing to drive, and the list of things that are going to happen to it, and I've already promised Adam that as I make each change, that he can drive it again. So
tremendous. Very good.
The idea being is that he will let me know if I'm going in the wrong direction. I would let Monkey drive it, but Monkey will do monkey things with it, which he just. I suspect the mechanical sympathy and Monkey aren't necessarily friends. So and we can finally obviously go on to the pièce de résistance.
Oh, here we go.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Super progressive.
Easy.
It is Daddy Musk's finest creation.
About that.
No, I don't mean what I'm saying either. It's Model Y performance. It's does car brilliantly.
Yes, it absolutely faults.
Yeah. However, it does it with no charisma.
No, it's soulless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the difference between using a McDonald's sign-in counter thing and speaking to a really entertaining person in a cafe to get your order. That's the difference. It's like one of them is far more efficient than the other.
Yes.
But actually, the experience isn't there. I made the choice on purpose, which was that I got fed up with having cars that I loved. The SQ5 and the A5 were really good examples of that. And then putting interstellar miles on them. And watching this thing that I really liked get slowly destroyed by its main purpose. And I realized as well that I couldn't have my cake and eat it. I needed to have a fun car, and I needed a car for work. So I got the Model Y for work. It's great on fuel. It's significantly cheaper than running a diesel or a petrol. I was able to share numbers with Adam a few weeks ago in terms of what that actually looked like in real terms, and it's hundreds and hundreds of pounds a year. And you'll know that as well, Mike, obviously, because you had the Model S.
I had the Model S, but I felt exactly the same way that you did, and we've talked about this on the podcast before. It was a brilliant car, and I really liked it, but I just didn't have the passion for it that I do for the Jag or other cars that I've had. You can't fault it in what it does, but it's just not the same.
Absolutely. It's I'd like to think that I'm probably always going to have EVs from this point.
It's not easy to go back.
No, I mean, the being able to charge it from home type thing, and as we're seeing the range of EVs slowly increasing, getting to the point where I can go to almost any of the places that I have to go for work without even having to stop and charge. And as soon as I can not rely on a supercharger network, then it becomes a no-brainer, because the cost element, it becomes massively in favour of an EV. But I've probably always maintained, as long as I'm allowed to, ICE vehicles as well. Because the sound, the feel, the vibration, all the things that they've done such a good job of removing.
They're
part of the experience.
EVs have their own charm. They're different.
And it's fine, right? It's I said it does car very well. I upset some people on one of the Tesla forums by referring to it as a vehicular appliance.
Oh God, don't do that.
But it is, it's an appliance performing a task, and that task is transport.
And it does it very well.
And I've got nothing against it, but in real terms, I'm glad I've got the motorbike. I'm glad I've got the Z4. I've got plans for more exciting things over the coming years. If things allow me to, maybe I'll get that dream car of the 911 at some point.
You see, that was precisely where I was going to go, because I thought before we wrap it up, it's like, right, we've had the list of what you've had and what you've got, but what's next? I know what's next. But everyone else doesn't.
So short term will be supercharging the Z4. Just because I think that would be hilarious. 350 horsepower Z4 with uprated brakes and suspension and all the other things that are required to do that properly will be a fantastic bit of kit. Ultimately, I'd really like a 997 turbo Porsche 911. Even if I had the money, I would still choose a 997. Even if it wasn't about a 991 or a 992. The 991 and 992 are phenomenal. I think that they would probably fall into the same category as the GTR to some extent, which is that they'll be almost too fast and too capable. But also too big.
That's the problem. They suffer with a little bit of lardiness, not just weight, but physical size as well. And there's an elegance to the 997.
I think that the 996 was a bit of a misstep. I don't hate it as much as some people do.
It gets bad press. I think that's unfounded.
But I think that the 997, the return to those classic Porsche headlights, really, and much more classic Porsche lines. So for me, that's the one. And I've had conversations with you, Adam, about various different types of 997, and I've realised that it does need to be the turbo.
Well, it comes back to that sort of passion thing for you. It's that I was a small boy. I want a 911 turbo.
It's powerful. It is. What you wanted as a kid is powerful.
And there's arguments. We've had discussions around it going, well, maybe it should be a GTS, or all right, that's probably where the smart money is, but that's not what you want.
And
buy the one you want.
It needs to be all-wheel drive as well. Not necessarily because of lack of driving skill or talent or any of those other things. The all-wheel drive. It's just that I want to use the thing all year round.
That's fair.
And it's let's face it, it's a part of the world where we could do with all-wheel drive if you're putting down a lot of power.
We haven't got the best roads in the world, have we? Let's be honest.
No, we've got some of the most fun roads to drive on, but those roads have a lot of leaves and muck and stuff from farms get dragged across the road and various other things. And I've had all-wheel drive save me from embarrassment or disaster on more than one occasion. It comes back to that thing of, if you want a fun car, you want a fun car that you don't care about to some extent. So it's like, okay, the Z is a few £1,000s, but that's not necessarily a small amount of money, but at the same time, it's not the order of magnitude that it'd be crashing a 911. And the associated Porsche tax that would be with that. So being rear-wheel drive is fine. It makes it more fun. It's great, but I have to scratch that itch of having the car that I've always dreamed of. And that's really key for me.
That's fine. And if we, I don't know if we've delved into it yet, but if we differentiate, we're going turbo or turbo S.
I don't think it makes that much difference. In real terms, I mean,
we're talking. I think in terms of Grandad Land, we're about 30. No, sorry, mid 20 horsepower difference and 0.4 of a second difference in terms of 0 to 60.
If I start having to put down qualifying laps at the Nürburgring, then I would really regret that decision. But the reality is that a 400 plus horsepower 911 turbo is going to be indistinguishable from a 400 plus an extra 20 horsepower.
Well, you're doing yourself a disservice. You're going for a 997 turbo. You are in the realms of 500 horsepower.
Yeah, but I mean, the other thing is as well is that it's a turbo. So as a turbo, you could basically ignore that 20 horsepower because you can tune them up to hundreds if you want to. More than that without having the initial outlay of a turbo S. I'm not buying it as a status symbol. I'm not there trying to have badge appreciation of somebody looking at it and going, "Oh wow, that's a turbo S." I don't care. Would be whichever one came along at the right time.
That's fair.
I do have a bit of a segue, and I think I wanted to. I did say to you, Adam, that I wanted to ask Mike about this.
Please do.
I think, Mike, that you like the idea of a Jag, but you don't particularly like Jags.
Okay, that's it's going to take me a while to unpack that.
So I'll expand that slightly, which is that.
Please do.
You are a car enthusiast. You have a huge passion for a whole variety and a massive range of vehicles, and you like the idea of a British marque. And I've driven an XF. I've been in an XF. That's fine, but they are measurably not as good as a 5 Series. They're measurably not as good as an E-Class. They're almost car. And for me, I think that you need a car which is more fun and isn't necessarily. You should definitely drive that MX-5, by the way, as a starting point. Right up
yes, I need to do that. Yes, because it's out there on the driveway. I need to do that.
Yeah, because for me, when I hear about some of the stuff you've complained about with the XF, and you're thinking about should you get rid of it? Yeah. You don't think about getting rid of a car that you love. You think about getting rid of a car that's disappointed you in some way. And I feel that the Jaguar marque is something which means a lot to you, but I don't necessarily feel that the Jaguar marque is the car for you because they don't make a car that actually meets muster anymore.
It's interesting you bring this up. Obviously, we've been talking about Jaguar a lot lately with what they're doing. And I have been coming to the conclusion that the car I have now might well be my last Jag, because they're not going in a direction I'm interested in, and the XF Sport Brake I have now is great, but I think my next car will probably be something else. So I think I've not had anybody articulate it quite that directly. But you could have something, and it's sort of something I'm coming to the same conclusion. Yeah, and I probably would look in the direction of BMW.
Yeah, I mean, they were nice cars to drive. I mean, I think the more modern BMWs are falling into that same trap, but they're a little bit lacking in passion. I think would be the way to describe it. There's so many modern features. I think that you could approach it two ways. I think you should definitely scratch that STR itch, 100%, and that should be
that's different. Car. Yeah, that's different. Yeah.
That's your garage queen, and then just get whatever it is that go out, drive some of the German things, drive some of the Japanese things, and then decide based on merit instead. Because I think you're doing yourself a disservice, because Jag isn't the brand that it used to be. They don't make interesting cars anymore.
Granted. Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah, you can't argue with that.
Well, they don't make any cars anymore.
No, that's
no, they don't do anything at all at the moment.
That's an awful problem at the moment. But
yes. And I don't think they're going to produce cars that we are A, going to be able to afford, but B, aren't going to be interested in.
100%.
Which is a real shame, but it is what it is.
I'm really looking forward to driving that G35 series. Because that'll be the most modern BMW I've driven. The previous generation 5 series, which was cracking, let's face it. But I'm intrigued because I know we talked about on the podcast that Ben reported back and went, I'm really worried when I get in an analog car and drive that.
Yeah, you'll have forgotten how.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it'll be fine.
I mean, of course he'll be fine. You understand what he means, though. Just going, it's that pause and going, right, I have to do it.
Yeah, I did used to, when I first had the Model S, and at the time Dawn had the Fiesta ST3, it did, after I'd been driving the Tesla for a little while, I really had to think when I got into the Fiesta. I really had to think about changing gears and doing all the things that the Tesla either doesn't have or does for you. It was, I really had to think about, clutch down, right, into gear. I'm starting to forget. It was quite scary.
It's that weird thing. I remember when I drove your Model S and later that day got back in my car and was approaching a junction and going, that's all right, it'll slow down. Oh no, it's me, isn't it? That's me.
That's your job.
Yeah.
Yes, and you'd only been driving the Model S for what, 2-3 hours?
Yeah, I had a few hours in it, but shortly after got into my car and went, no, yes, I have to use the brakes.
Yes, there's more work to do here. It's a genuine concern. Yeah,
because I change cars so regularly in terms of I drive one for work and one for pleasure, and it tends to be that I drive the Z, several times a week, and the Tesla several times a week. It's not like there's big gaps between. I don't get that. What I do get is the most irritating one, particularly if it's a dry day. So you'll know this, Mike, which is the reverse on the Model Y is on the stalk.
Yes.
And you hit the stalk up to reverse, which is also the same as turning the windscreen wipers on in a BMW. So you see me in the BMW in a car park, and I'll go to reverse into a space, and I'll turn my windscreen wipers on. I look like a complete idiot.
My dear,
it's the same maneuver does very different jobs.
Yeah.
It's the same as Grandad, though, of going, right, well, today I'm driving my car, the following day I'm driving Kaylee's van, and now we're going, right, we get to a junction, we're wiping the windscreen. Yes. Yes. I thought, no, I just wanted to indicate, but no.
Tiny brain.
Yeah.
See, that's one of the things that I don't understand about kind of modern cars, is that we have this modularity now of modern vehicles. There is no reason that you couldn't have the stalk centrally controlled. Right? There's no good reason for it. So you can have it. Do you want your indicators on the right or the left? Do you want your wipers on the right or the left? just have it as an option in the menu. I mean, it really shouldn't be that difficult.
Well, of course, the Model 3 now doesn't have stalks at all. So they've dealt with that issue by removing them.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the yoke, isn't it? It's
fuckwittery of the highest order.
It's
fixing a problem that didn't exist.
Absolutely, yeah. What it does mean is that they have to manufacture fewer things.
Yeah,
it's increasing the.
Granted, yeah. It's another feature that's been moved into software. Yeah.
Oh, and God bless software and dickheads in the backseat of their car turning on heated steering wheels. Yes, I'm looking at you.
Who would do such a thing?
Terrible behaviour.
Fucking hot in here, isn't it? You were so happy with your work when you did that.
I was exceptionally happy, and I have to say that I will continue to be happy on that particular topic. No remorse.
Such a child.
Wonderful.
Very good. Well, I think that draws us to a close. That was absolutely superb. Thank you.
It was. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for running us through. Let's face it, quite the impressive car list and motorbikes. So let's not forget the bikes. Slow start, Citroens and Cavaliers, but
they had their place. We've all got to start somewhere. I had a Mark IV Escort. Come on.
It's a micro.
It's been an absolute pleasure. I've really enjoyed myself, and I apologise that I've talked too much.
No,
that's
not precisely it. Because what that means is me and Mike can just switch off and go. We've got an episode or two out of this, and we've done very little. It's perfect.
Yeah, I've got much further through my bottle of wine than I normally do. It's banging.
Oh, you see, you'll sleep well tonight. You're going to get a kick for snoring later, aren't you?
I do every night.
Yeah, it's a standard practice. But yes, Thank you very much, mate. What we will do is, I think everyone's probably been on as a follow-up, where we will go over stuff, cars in general, whether it's something going on at the time, something that you're interested in. Mike's incapacitated and we do a MotoGP podcast, anything like that. All of the above.
All of the above. Well, MotoGP's early this year. MotoGP's May.
Oh God, it is, isn't it? Yeah, we're gonna have to get on that because I've had discussions. I've got additional attendees this year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Don't worry. Safe pairs of hands. Experienced beverage consumers.
Who's going to be Camp Dad? And I don't mean it in the way that you
for fuck.
That was one of the things about having Scott around in 23 was that he's an excellent camp dad.
Oh yeah. He's not. I mean, he's consuming, but he's responsible.
Exactly.
And he's got his eye out. He's always looking.
Yeah.
Everyone's safe.
You can tell he's the father of boys.
Chaos
is going to ensue.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I've only got the one, and he's fairly subdued, so I've not had the same issues. Whereas, he's on it.
Absolutely. Anyway, chaps, I told my wife that I was going to be. I'll be done by 9:30. Look at us now.
Oh, there we go. Look at us now.
Well, why would you say that? Because Mike and I, when we do a normal-sized episode, are not even done by 9:30.
No, totally unrealistic.
I don't know what's behind the curtain. This is like a Wizard of Oz moment for me.
Oh, you see, now you've seen how the sausages are made.
Yeah.
Right. No, before it goes, any more into the gut. Right.
I've enjoyed both of your sausages immensely.
Oh, tremendous.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
The feeling is mutual. Yes. All right. Thank you so much, mate. Appreciate it.
And I'll see you on Saturday, buddy.
Yes, you will.
All right. Take it easy.
Nice to meet you, Chris. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
We can't thank Chris enough for joining us and running us through his extensive car history. We very much look forward to him joining us again soon. As ever, find us on Instagram and Twitter. You can also join our Discord server or simply email info@stuffandwaffle.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening.